Hello everyone, and welcome to another CPC Strategy hosted webinar. Today we're going to be talking about top Amazon sponsored product mistakes draining your budget and profits. Today we have back the dynamic duo, Pat Petrello at CPC Strategy over to my left, and then of course Chad Rubin, CEO and founder of Skubana over to my right here, how I have it kind of positioned. So for today we have a fantastic presentation for the start. I think we marketed it as top 5 sponsored product mistakes. We kind of threw in one extra one at the end too, so it's really top 6 that we're going to kind of cover today's session. I've gone through this content with Chad and Pat yesterday, and there is a lot to get through for today's session. A lot of good takeaways too, especially with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up too within the next week. So it's going to be very important, kind of so a lot of takeaways from today's session. So. I'm just going to go over a couple of logistics for today's session, but I know there's going to be a lot of people still joining in. We have about 300 people joining us right now, so it's really good to see. Maybe just kind of shoot over in the chat box, not where you're airing from, but this time. But we'd like to see how the audio quality is. Maybe just give me like a 1 if the audio quality is good for today. Testing out a new location, kind of all of us are in different locations, so I want to make sure the audio quality is just as good. And so seeing a lot of 1s come in. Audio is good. Audio's good. Okay. Good to see, good to see. Nice, I got a 10 there, so that's got to be really good. Good to hear. Fantastic. Okay, well, that's good. So we'll be using that chat box over here, as you guys are seeing, for today's session. So if you have any questions like that, that's what we'll be using. But it's good. It's good to have everyone. We really do respect your time. But again, I know there's a lot of content to get through. You guys have a ton of questions, I'm sure. So we want to get to those as well. So Pat, if we kind of want to just go over into the next slide here, we'll go through the actual logistics for today's session. So I don't have any poll questions for today. Maybe I'll shoot one in there more maybe towards the end, but we don't have any poll questions for today's session. But a question that I get every single time when we do these webinars: is it recorded, and will the slides be sent out? Yes, they will be. We are currently recording the slides right now, or the presentation right now, and we'll be sending that out to you guys within the next 48 hours. So you guys can have that before the weekend. I'll try to get to you before the weekend, actually, so you can review. Again, submit your questions to our panelists. I'll be behind the scenes here doing all the kind of the back end work. I'll be able to answer some of your questions on the fly, and then also I'll be jumping in to pitch those questions to Pat and Chad for today's session. We have a couple of resources available for today too. If this is your very first webinar at CPC, you're new to us, same with Skubana, definitely check out the resources that we have in the handout section. We give a couple, I believe I put the sponsored products guidebook in there, as well as this enhanced brand and content guide as well, and there's a lot more to come. And so that's gonna do it for the introductions. I thought I'd kick it over to Pat and Chad because, again, like I mentioned, there's a lot to get through for today's session. So, Pat, I'm gonna kind of kick it over to you and Chad for today's talk.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Nick, for the intro and for setting us up. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We're doing the video webinar today, so apologize for our faces. Unfortunately, not much we can do in that regard. We are 1 week away from having a full plate of turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, gravy, all the good stuff. But for right now and for this Thursday, our plate's also pretty full with talking about sponsored products. So my name is Pat. I head up marketplace strategy here at CPC Strategy, and really excited to talk to you guys about some of the most common mistakes that are made with sponsored products and how we can avoid them. And very fortunate to be joined by Chad Rubin, the CEO and co-founder of Skubana.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Pat, always happy to collaborate with you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump right into it. As Nick said, he like a classic marketing guy, he misrepresented what's going on. He said there's going to be 5 mistakes. There's 6. It's a bonus mistake, so that's awesome. So what are we going to talk about a little bit today? Some of the most commonly made mistakes by advertisers using sponsored products, and this is obviously very topical as we are no longer heading into Q4. We are right in the mix of it right now. And so we'll talk about understanding your advertising goals, how those goals help you define success, how those goals also inform how you're going to structure and implement campaigns, how to get granular with your campaign strategy. We see people go very broad, and that restricts them from being able to make micro decisions based on performance. We'll talk about that. Chad's going to get into a little bit about how to use your head, use your data, not use your emotions and your ego to make decisions when it comes to advertising. That's really important. We'll talk about the meaning behind ACOS, it's advertising cost of sale. Chad's going to get into that a little bit as well. not optimizing your listing for conversion rate. The conversion rate drives your ACOS, drives your profitability. Your detail page optimization is key to that. And then lastly, and we see this one all the time, is sellers who set it and forget it. So that is to say, if you set it up and don't come back and optimize it. So we'll address all of those, how you can avoid them, and how it'll benefit you to not make those mistakes. Come out of the gates and talk about the most common mistake we see across the board with all advertisers, vendors, sellers, private labelers, lead brands, big, small, you name it, is not fully understanding what your advertising goals are and how those advertising goals pull against each other. And so we want to show you our advertising triangle where you have volume, speed, and efficiency. What do all of you want right now? And your bosses are either asking this of you or you're asking this of your team if you're the boss, is you want more volume, more efficiently right now. Of course, that's what everybody wants, right? You want to triple your volume, you want to cut your ACOS from 30% to 10%, and you'd like that done by the end of the day. That'd be amazing. We would all want that as well. And what to take away from this is that at any given moment, you can have two of these. You can have volume and speed, meaning I can give you volume right now. You can have efficiency and speed, meaning we can get efficient right now. Or we can get volume and efficiency, but it takes time. So let's unpack these a little bit more. What does that mean? Does that mean there's a limitation, or we don't know what we're doing, or why am I saying that we can only have two of these things? Think about how volume, and volume is measured in terms of your metrics by order volume and by revenue. Efficiency is measured by ACOS, advertising cost of sale. It's a percentage. The lower the ACOS, the more efficient your advertising is. If you're advertising at a 10% ACOS, you're 3 times more efficient on that advertising than if you're advertising at a 30% ACOS. So how can we get you, and how can you get yourself, volume right now? If you said, hey, I need volume now, you can maximize exposure, you can increase bids, you can increase budget, you can add keywords, you can take exact match keywords and turn them into broad match keywords, you can launch auto campaigns, you can do all those things, and I guarantee you, you will reach more people, which will generate more volume. But the cost of that is you will sacrifice efficiency, because there is a marginal return, which is a fancy way of saying every sale is slightly more difficult than the previous sale. Your first sale, or your mom, is always going to be the easiest sale that you can make. Your 10,000th sale, you're reaching further away from a relevancy standpoint to people who are in the research phase. We'll talk about that in a minute. Efficiency and speed. If you say, wow, I'm at 50% ACOS, that's really not profitable for my business. I need to take that down to 30%. You can get efficient quickly. You can do that by cutting out wasted spend, pausing campaigns that aren't performing, pausing keywords, downbidding. You can basically get tighter in your advertising so that you're getting more efficient. But what do you sacrifice when you get more efficient? You reduce your reach. When you reduce your reach, you reduce volume. So to get more efficient in the short term, you will sacrifice order volume. So what does everybody want? Everybody wants volume and efficiency. You want more orders and you want it more efficiently. We can actually do that. You can do that. What it takes is time. The volume and the efficiency is the aggregate of all the micro optimizations which are being made optimally on an everyday basis at a granular level to all your campaigns and keywords and ad groups to make sure that you are pushing harder on the places where you're doing really well, what I like to call pouring fuel on the fire where those fires are burning, and cutting fat where you're not efficient. Why is that the case? Is that just Pat's opinion? Is that CPC's opinion? Is that just the way things are? Think about that dynamic in terms of the e-commerce conversion funnel, and really this is any purchase funnel. You go through this in your brain even when you pick up a tube of toothpaste off the shelf at the pharmacy. It probably only takes you about 2 seconds. When you're buying a house, going through this conversion funnel from awareness to purchase might take you a year, 2 years. Essentially, when you want more volume, you go from the bottom of this pyramid, from loyalty and purchase, up to awareness. You are reaching further away to a less relevant audience. And by less relevant, I mean at the bottom of this funnel might be somebody who knows exactly what brand, color, size, shape, features, functionality that they want. That person has high intent. They know that they want black, tinted, scratch-resistant, Oakley, asphalt-colored, bicycling sunglasses. That's different than a person who's at the top of this funnel that's just saying, hey, I want sunglasses. You don't know if they want them for men, women, children, as a gift, as a Halloween costume, anything, reading glasses. And so the further you go up funnel, that's how you get more volume. And that volume will, by definition, be less efficient because you're reaching further away from a relevancy standpoint than when you were staying tight. And if you were getting more efficient, you come down this funnel to where you get high relevance, people with high search intent, you know exactly what they're looking for. Obviously, those are more valuable customers. That'll inform your bid levels as well. We'll talk about that more as well. And that informs the push-pull relationship between volume and efficiency. So understanding your goals, where do you need to be? What ACOS is acceptable for you? Chad's going to have a great breakdown of that later on, of how to think about ACOS when you bake in Amazon fees and the other things that you need to consider for your business. Great. So where we start is our goals. The last piece on goals before we move to number 2 is you have no way of defining whether your advertising efforts and your investment was successful if you don't know what your goals are. You can't look back after Q4 and say, yeah, we did well or we did poor if you don't know what your goals are to begin with. All right, so here I am telling you that we can give you volume, we can give you efficiency, and the way we do it is over time with granular optimizations to your campaign. The only way one can do that is if one has their campaign structure set up in a way that allows them to get granular with those optimizations. And that leads us to mistake number 2. We often see advertisers who, in the interest of time, expediency, or lack of expertise or technology, don't get granular enough with their campaign structuring. So I'm hesitant to use the word optimal, but in an optimal world, in a perfect world for your sponsored products campaign setup, and there's a lot on the screen here, so we'll walk through this, and Nick, I'm sure we're getting questions for this, is that for any single ASIN, we like to have both a manual targeted campaign and an automatic targeted campaign. Again, manual targeted campaign fueled by manually input keywords that an advertiser has to input. Automatically targeted campaigns are campaigns that run off the product's content itself. Titles, bullet points, descriptions, things like that. So, why are we using both of these at the same time? Which one is better is a question we often get asked. There's benefits, there's pros and cons to both. Auto-targeting campaigns provide value in 2 areas. One, for keyword harvesting. Keyword harvesting is essentially using auto-targeted campaigns to find out where your products are matching for relevancy for given search terms, where those search terms are producing clicks, more importantly, where those search terms are producing clicks and conversions. Because clicks without conversions are simply wasted spend. Wasted spend is how you drive your ACOS up. Manually targeted campaigns. Manually targeted campaigns are informed by the actual keywords that you are entering in and you want to bid on. Typically, you're bidding higher on your manually targeted campaigns than your automatically targeted campaigns. The reason for that is you are essentially elevating your high-performing keywords and targeting them more aggressively in your manual campaigns. 2 guarantees I can make you is you are not going to win across all the keywords that are relevant to you because the competition is too fierce. The second guarantee I can make you is you can absolutely win for some of them. So using data, which Chad will talk about later as well, to inform where to go and where you're a winner is really important to make sure you're maximizing efficiency. Beyond that, we have, oh, Nick, it looks like you're about to jump in. Can I just finish this thought real quick?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So we have our single ASIN, we have our manual campaign, we have our automatic targeted campaign, and within that manual campaign, we have our ad groups with their 3 different match types, broad, phrase, and exact. And Nick, let me just get through the match types, and then I'm sure you have a question. So
I'm gonna piggyback too. So.
Okay, cool. That's good. Let's get it going. So everybody asks the question, what match types are better? I understand the question, but it's actually not the right way to think about the question. The question should be, what are the different 3 match types? How do they relate to each other? And what is their usefulness in my overall advertising strategy? As you can imagine, think of this on a continuum of how restrictive they are and how much volume they'll get. Broad match, least restrictive, most volume, less relevance. Less relevance is what? More volume, higher ACOS. Exact match is search terms that only exactly match the keyword you've entered or slight variations of it. So if it's pant, it could be pants. A shoe could be shoes. Phrase has to have the exact phrase that you've entered in that order, but it can include something else as well, right? So baseball bat, it could be red baseball bat or wooden baseball bat. And then broad is including the phrase, but it could be in, those words could be any order. They don't have to exactly be in that order. And we'll talk about some examples on the next slide. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, the questions really start flowing in now. Let me just address one of these. Let's see. Leah wants to know, with an auto-targeting campaign, this is probably going to be a depend question, so I apologize, Pat and Chad, but he wants to know, with an auto-targeting campaign, what is a good bid to start with? I mean, I have seen, typical bids, in other presentations too. Like, what would you kind of recommend for people if they're just starting out with an auto campaign for, let's just say, a net new product?
Got it. Yeah, I love the question because it allows us to address what really is the core question there. And so people want, like, hey, is it 25 cents? Is it $1? Is it 60 cents? What's the answer? And it is a classic case of it depends, because it's going to depend on your specific product, on your margin, on your competition, on your price point, on your ACOS goal. And so you might say, hey, I can bid 5 cents, and that's great, but you get no impressions because you're selling, protein supplements where there's such fierce competition and everybody has 85% margin that's not even getting you into the game. The 2 things I would suggest there are, 1, using Amazon's suggested bid as a place to start, and 2, ramp up slowly until you get comfortable with the ACOS level given the margin that you have for that product or that ad group. A lot of this too, and this takes us right back to point number 1, is knowing your goal. Is your goal to get as much volume as possible for the product, and so you don't care if you're at a 1-to-1 ACOS 100% because you're just trying to drive awareness? Whoa. Or is it because are you trying to be super efficient? We'll get more into that. So Nick, we could do a whole webinar just on that question, so we'll get more into that later.
Great. Chad, I didn't know if you were going to piggyback earlier, or...
Yeah, Chad, go for it.
I just think that this slide is so important, just thinking about the structure, because the structure is the foundation of your entire campaign. And I'm sure there's a lot of different people on this call that are like, could be newbies, maybe they're 3P doing 1P, maybe they're 1P doing 3P. Like, I think there's a lot of different experience levels on the call.
Sure.
But I'll tell you that, like, our structure is the most important thing. And a long time ago, I had a different company managing my sponsored ads, and they weren't really putting in the time. And Pat, you're going to talk more about this with the harvesting techniques, but the way our campaign was structured, it wasn't getting granular enough, right? So I'll just, not a lot of people maybe know myself or my background, but I have 950 of my own branded products on Amazon. We have 3,000 listings. So like, if you type in shark filter, you have to really know your product. It's not just shark filter, it's shark filter. There's like 25, 30 different shark filters out there. So we actually structure it in the same exact way, right? Manual, auto. And it does take time, but putting in the time now will create a huge ROI into the future.
Yeah, Chad, that's a great call out. And it was 2 things in there that I want to extrapolate or expand upon rather. Is 1 is, hey, this is great, but I have a super large catalog. I have 50,000 SKUs. So how am I going to do that? Yeah, and that is tough. So I understand, and that's why I hesitate to use the word optimal, is that if you have a campaign that large, it can be difficult to execute against that. And that's where you can put like products in an ad group. For us, that's why we use our internal CapEx technology as well to be able to build that and to be able to manage that. But to Chad's point, this really comes down to performance. At the beginning, it's easy to say, all right, I'm going to put 1,000 products in this ad group. Cool, I'm done with that. But when it comes to December 5th, and you're in the heat of the holiday shopping season, and you're saying, all right, my ACOS is running wild. How do I reel it back in? Or I'm not getting enough volume. You run a high risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater because you have so much grouped together that you can't come in and make really specific granular tweaks to your advertising. It's oftentimes just one ASIN or a handful of keywords or just a certain group of products that are killing an ad group or killing a campaign. And if you can just turn those off and you can identify where your fires are burning brightest and continue to focus on those, that's what your competitors are doing. That's what we're seeing, where the advertisers who are seeing a lot of success and who are growing really quickly are doing this. Now, again, we could talk about this until the end of time. I know we have a lot of good stuff to get into. So in the interest of time here, I want to continue to push forward. Won't spend too much time here. This is essentially just showing you, hey, you have an automatic campaign, you have a manual campaign. I don't want to spend too much time on the basics here. The biggest thing for you to know is that your manual campaigns are dumb, meaning they don't do anything until you give them keywords. So you can set it up with all the budget and the bids in the world. If you don't give it keywords, it's not going to do anything. Your automatic campaigns, they run off your product content, good and bad. Good, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about what keywords to put in. Bad, garbage in, garbage out philosophy. If you have poor content on your product detail page, it's going to inform a poor automatic sponsored products campaign. Example I like to use is ask somebody when you think of the word sheet, ask them what they think of. They're either going to say cookie sheet or bed sheet, and those are not relevant to each other. So if you're selling bed sheets and you have sheet all over your content, you could match up against cookie sheet searches. You're going to want to know that. So we talked about the match types a little bit, so I don't want to waste too much time on them, but you have your broads, you have your phrases, you have your exacts. The numbers here on the left, view these more as guidelines. These are not hard and fast rules. One of the most common questions we get, especially as Chad mentioned, for folks maybe who don't have a tremendous amount of experience operating these advertising campaigns is just, where do I start? What's a good metric for me to start? What's a good benchmark? And you do want a mix of these, and we'll get to these because I think this was mistake number 6, is that as long as it's not set it and forget it. You can't say, that's an exact match keyword, that's a broad match keyword, okay, I'm done with that forever. Think of it this way, that choice and that optimization is as good as the moment that you make it. So if you made it on September 1st, if you made it on July 8th, that's how old that decision is. And new data informs optimization of that selection and of those bids. Cool. Same thing here, really just kind of showing you what negative keywords are looking like. Negative keywords are essentially a way to cut the fat. It's the most extreme way to cut the fat. So if you're in your cookie sheet, bed sheet example, if you're basically saying, I never ever want my bed sheets to match against any search that is cookie sheets, because I can say with a super high level of certainty, that's not relevant to my product. That can create clicks. Those clicks won't convert because if intent is around cookie sheet, people aren't looking for bed sheets. And so all that would be wasted spend. That's where you can use negative match types to cut that fat. Cool. Let's keep going here. Excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about the search term report, and Chad's going to go into a bit more detail about this later. He has a really creative way that he uses this around product content too, which you guys are really going to find interesting. So he'll get into that. What this is the search term, customer search term report, which comes out of sponsored products in Campaign Manager. And so what this is showing you is column C here. You see the customer search term, and you can look at, okay, what search terms generated clicks, generated conversions, generated spend. What do you want to know? You want to know where are you winning and where you should push harder. If something here is showing me that I'm getting a ton of clicks, a ton of conversions, and a great ACOS, that's the data telling me, wow, this is really relevant. I am doing really well here. I would move that search term into a keyword in my manual campaign, and I would bid up on it because I know it's a profitable endeavor for me. Like I said, Chad will get into this a little bit more because there's other uses to this report as well, but one of the key takeaways here is don't go by what you think, what you feel, how big your breakfast was that day, what kind of sleep you got the night before. Use the actual data to make product agnostic, essentially ruthless advertising decisions. Speaking of that, great segue, and this is Chad, where I'll pass it over to you, is to talk about, and we see this a ton across advertisers, is using data to drive decision making. Not ego, not emotion, but data.
Yeah, thanks for passing the mic over. I just want to start out and say that like a presentation like this, there's no shiny objects here, there's no affiliate links, there's no used car salespeople. Like, these are actual tactics that work. So we're not selling you a dream. There's no hacks here. This is just pure foundational intelligence that you can use to drive your business forward. So let's see if I can click. We go forward. So in terms of like making decisions, I don't think the clicker is working. There we go. So these are 3 things that I'm using tremendously to make decisions on a daily basis, not just for sponsored ads, but just in terms of how I run my business. There's 3 different things on this slide that we'll go through. One is Merchant Words, which is a keyword suggestion tool for Amazon specifically. I have no affiliation with them. I just like the software. Moz is a keyword tool for Google. It gives me keyword ideas. And then I use Amazon's natural search capability, which is coined as A9, the auto suggest function. I use this hashtag function, which we'll get into in a second, and then I use the keyword research report to kind of round out my decisions. So the first one I want to point out here is Merchant Words, and this helps us understand what customers are searching already. So you can type in anything you want into headsets, but if you just typed in headsets, you'll see that the first one is voice over IP headsets or Bluetooth headsets, but as you go down the line, you'll see gaming headsets. So we want to actually advertise, not just advertise, but in my own business, I have a private label business, which is how we started Skubana, is that we try to solve problems of what people are searching. So the search volumes here that you're getting on a monthly basis help us determine if we want to participate and play in those categories on a product level and on a sponsored ad level. Paz, is there anything you wanted to add on this one?
Oh, hold on, I just wanted to unmute myself. No, other than just that, I agree. We've seen really good value for Merchant Words, and the point here that Chad is making, and I think is a really good one, is understanding where there's volume before you go hunting for it, so that you're not on a wild goose chase where even if you win, you end up with another 100 clicks as your max opportunity.
Exactly, you can go spear fishing, but a lot of people would type in headsets as their broad match term, and headsets is completely wrong because it could be a PS4 headset, it could be an X1 headset, Xbox One headset, etc. The other thing, just while people are on the call, I think is really important, and I think I'm probably one of the first that are doing this, is that a lot of people use these sort of research tools like Unicorn Smasher or Jungle Scout or whatever to figure out what they're going to actually make next or what they're going to deploy their capital into. And we go the reverse, right? So because if everybody's using BSR to make decisions about products, everyone's going to end up with the same products. So we make it a pull process versus a push product process. We pull from the customers versus pulling from sellers that are already selling an item, and we really try to prevent ourselves from being a Me Too offering. So the next slide here is the hashtag. This is really important as well. So if you're advertising in baby diapers and you're using Amazon A9, so Amazon A9 is a separate incorporation. Actually, they have their own website. I believe it's a9.com. Amazon just updated their website. It's quite fascinating, but they also have a patent on their search technology. But when I use this auto suggest feature, it gives me ideas of what people are searching in a pecking order, so in priority. So baby diapers size 1, that's the most searched item on Amazon for baby diapers after baby diapers. However, if you put simply a hashtag before the word, now you're getting other things that people are searching on Amazon in the pecking order. So it gives you other ideas. So adult baby diapers, newborn baby diapers, honest baby diapers. So a lot of times I'll take these and I'll put them in the back end of my keyword search terms. Perhaps I may try to embed them into my listing itself, especially if you're running an auto campaign match and you're harvesting those keywords and pulling those in. That's great. Now, Amazon does prevent you from advertising other brands in the back end of the search terms. For example, Honest Baby Diapers is a brand, Honest Company. So instead of putting that in the back end, you can actually use Honest Baby Diapers. And with Honest Baby Diapers, you can now use PPC and get surgical and deploy dollars and capitalize on that brand equity of that company.
Hey, Chad?
Yeah.
Were you saying, and I want to make sure I understand this right, the order that these are shown, is this the order of the search volume for those given terms? As in, is adult baby diapers the top and then newborn baby has the second most? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pecking order. So Amazon's showing you what people are searching based on volume, the first one being the highest volume.
My experience, too, is that this shows pretty recent volume as well, so you're getting a pretty recent view of where the volume's going.
Exactly, and it gives you just ideas of either what you want to deploy capital to advertise against that maybe you didn't think was in your listing or in your sponsored ads. I don't think you can discuss sponsored ads without discussing your listing. I think they go hand in hand together. You agree with that, Pat?
Yeah, absolutely, okay. Because what it comes back to is it comes back to conversion. So especially if you're doing manual keyword targeting, which we were talking about a couple slides ago, if you're going to manually keyword target PS4 headset and you drive somebody back to a detail page and the detail page doesn't mention that it's a PS4 headset anywhere, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're either targeting the wrong word or you should update your content.
Totally. The other thing I use eBay as well. eBay also has an auto-suggest feature, which could be different from Amazon. And then I use Moz, which is a Google keyword planner tool. Google has their own built-in into the AdWords native functionality, but Moz has a really nice platform where you can actually see what the search volumes are. And I think you get like 1 or 2 searches a day for free, not paying for the software. I pay for the software. So it's a great way to come up with new keywords. And again, the whole idea here is you're doing things that your competitors aren't doing. And that's the only way to win right now, because if everyone's doing the same thing, if everyone's focusing on the same stuff, then we're all just doing the same thing. There's no way to edge up and get ahead and level up your competitors. The other thing which you've already discussed really is the search term report. And the search term report for me is really important. You go to reports, I believe advertising, and then the search term report right here. And so the search term report is the first time that Amazon is giving you the data of what people are searching or what keyword you bid on, right? What people have actually searched, and then the conversion history on that, and your ACOS for that as well. So it's giving you a lot of data that nobody else gets anywhere else. I think it's a fascinating report. But on top of that, I scour this report. We're going back to keywords, right? Using keywords to drive decisions. And if I see a keyword that maybe I'm not advertising against or I haven't seen before, I'm analyzing this data. I'm not only throwing it back into my sponsored ad manual campaign, but I'm also bringing those back into my listings if I can. So trying to cover both bases simultaneously. Cool. So you got to do the keyword research. A lot of the times, like when you look at certain listings on Amazon, I certainly do this, and I know a lot of other large sellers are doing this as well, is that you want to write half for Amazon and half for humans, because half the battle is driving traffic to your site and doing it right, but the other part is actually creating listings that are built to sell and convert. Amazon is looking at both. They're looking at the clicks, but Amazon only makes money on the conversions, which we'll get into as we progress along in this webinar.
Yeah, Chad, we hark on that a lot. It's no different than knowing your audience, and half your audience are human beings who are making decisions. Half your audience is the A9 search engine that's indexing the page for content, and you can tailor content in a way that optimizes for both. I'll be the first to admit this is very much a combination of art and science.
Totally. So now we're going to get into ACOS. I may have a different perspective on you, or maybe we share the same perspective. Initially, how I was driving my ACOS, well, let me get into the goals, right? So there's 2 goals, at least that I'm seeing for PPC. One is you want to maximize your top line. Maybe you want to maximize exposure, or you're trying to maximize profits. And so there's a nice combination of both, and I utilize PPC for my initial launch specifically, where I disregard profits for the time being. Right, so back in the day, you can do giveaways, you can do incentivized reviews, etc. Where now instead of doing giveaways, or I'm giving the money back to Amazon's pocket, which they love. So when I first do a launch, I will literally first work on maximizing sales. Sales may lead to more feedback as well, right? Because I want to create more social proof in my listing. But over time, once I'm already ranking for that product, then we start turning on the spigot where we try to maximize profits. So about a couple months ago, we were really so we have 950 products. There's a lot of people that copy our products that follow me on webinars and such, and that's great. And I'm always moving to the next item as well and constantly innovating. But the interesting thing is that I thought that I had to just compete on price. And when you compete on price, you lower your price. What does that do? Essentially, it makes it more expensive for that cost, for that sale. So what we recently did, which was fascinating, we'll get into this in a little bit, I'm digressing a little bit, is we actually changed our pricing. We increased our pricing. And I thought that was going to have a negative impact on my entire business, but actually the perceived value changed quite a bit for my business, and also obviously impacted my ACOS, because it brought down my ACOS quite a bit, because I'm making more money on the top line. So first thing is you have to understand what your goal is. So now our goal is really profits, but when we first launch a product, it's actually just trying to maximize sales, get rank, get social proof, get feedback, etc. So if you're just trying to maximize sales and revenue on Amazon, you're going to focus on just breaking even, right? You're focusing on what your break-even ACOS is. Now, most people don't even know what their break-even ACOS is, which is the whole exercise. Everybody should be doing it. Then for maximizing profits, knowing what your target is. And I don't always abide by what the waxing ACOS is. A lot of people are like, you go to a cocktail party, they're like, hey, what's your ACOS? Well, it's different for everybody, and some products, I'm actually making a lot of money on, we're gonna get to that in a second. Some products don't abide by a certain ACOS because they're making you so much money that you're buying it for 90 cents and you're selling it for $40. It doesn't make sense to have a 15% ACOS if actually you can have a 25% ACOS and perhaps double or triple that profit, absolute dollars at the end of the day. So this is an exercise that I did internally in my company that I suggest everyone do, which is look at their P&L. So you export from QuickBooks and you look at, hey, okay, these are all the Amazon fees. This is our revenue from Amazon. This is our FBA fees. This is our cost of goods sold. Figure out what those percentages are, and then you'll understand what your profit is before you spend on Amazon, right? So what is your sort of profitable, going back to the previous slide, right? What's your target ACOS to maximize your profit? So if you look at the next step here is, okay, 30% is your max ACOS. So if you're just trying to get some traction and you just want to look at your waxing ACOS, your broad ACOS for your all your campaigns, that may make sense, 30%. However, if you're actually trying to target profitability, right, your ACOS, you want to get to 10 cents. So knowing what your ACOS is on a broad level, but like Pat said earlier, you don't want to set it and forget it, and I think he'll get to that later in this presentation, is that you're constantly trying to manage, not only are you harvesting keywords like we talked about with keywords, but you're actually trying to manage because you're looking at maybe what are the items that are making you the most money as well, because maybe those don't fit in, square peg or square hole round peg or whatever it is. So
something like that.
Exactly, something like that. So like there's no waxing idea here. Like we structure it, we go on a very surgical micro level for every product, and that's the way we win with our sponsored ad strategy.
Yeah, Chad. If you let me add a little bit here too, because I think this is some great stuff. And again, people are always saying, hey, what's the number, right? Is it 10%? Is it 40%? And again, the question comes from a good place, and I understand the question. But this all really comes from what your available margin is, what your goals are. So you could say, all right, I have a 50% ACOS. And the person to the right of you might say, okay, cool, that would put me out of business in about 19 days. And the person to the left of you would say, why are you leaving all that revenue on the table by only going up to 50% ACOS, to Chad's point? This is the very reason why we see advertising, how effective advertising is be so different between an arbitrage reseller, if there are still any of those left out there, and brand manufacturers, because they actually have the COGS, they have their manufacturing, so they can make it for so much cheaper that you can see this where Chad has it at 35% here for the cost of goods sold, and they have so much more room than if you only have 5 points of margin to give as a reseller. Well, you don't have that much room before you start to break even and go into the red. The other thing I would stress here as well is goals matter. So to Chad's point, if you have a product that's just launching, no one's ever seen it, no one's ever heard it before, it has 0 reviews, zero sales equity, 0 sales history, it's essentially new to market. You're thinking about this like a marketing activity and not like a profitability exercise. it might make sense for you to run 100%, 150% ACOS for a given period of time so you can build up sales equity against that ASIN. Amazon's not going to release what their organic rank algorithm is. If I had that, I'd be sitting on an island named after myself by now. But what we do know with a high level of confidence is that sales history does matter for organic ranking. So if you can get sales history through your sponsored products, through your AMS, through any of your advertising, and you can help boost that organic ranking, so now you're getting paid-free, click-free rather, purchases against your organic listing, that brings your overall ACOS down. And the other thing, and we see this all the time, is make sure you keep in mind the scale before you go into your account and freak out over a given keyword. Maybe you've spent $4 and don't have a sale yet, or you've spent $10 and you've only made $1, and you say, I have to pause this because it's running at an ACOS that's not acceptable. But maybe it's only $8 and you've only given it 2 clicks. And so don't be emotional about that decision. Make sure the data is informing that. We could probably talk about this for an hour of itself, but Chad, I think this is some great stuff.
Cool, cool. Now, I would just encourage people that are listening today, like just do the exercise, right? Go to your P&L and go break down your cost this way so you know what your overarching ACOS is, know what your goal is for your ACOS as well if you want to make money or break even. Know what those 2 numbers are. But then the next step really that I focus on is, and we whiteboarded this together in my own business trying to figure this out, is like those SKUs that are making you the most money, and you can see this in Skubana, we have a whole SKU profitability report. You find your hero diamond ASINs, right? What are those ASINs that are, or those listings on Amazon that are gonna make you the most money? And those are like, could be anomalies. Everyone has that 80-20, right? 20% of their SKUs make 80% of their profit. It holds true, right, when you're even in the Amazon world. And so understanding where you're making the most money and breaking down that profitability is extremely important. So we went in, we got surgical with it. We went in, like instead of having a butter knife approach trying to cut a steak, we actually had a steak knife. And we were like, okay, these are the 100 SKUs that we're making the most money on that we actually don't have to care about the broad waxing ACOS. Let's double down those SKUs because we have the most room to manage on it. And we did, and we saw a huge, huge boost to both our bottom line, right, and our overall business in general. Anything to add to that, Pat? Did I miss anything?
Nope, I think that makes perfect sense. And you only know who your strong performers are by looking at the numbers, not by it feels good or if you put a lot of money into brand development. Amazon's more ruthless than that. It's just what's winning.
True, and the other thing I want to just say on this last slide here, and this is a shout out to my own business, Skubana, which we created to support my own business. This shout out right here is essentially Amazon has a lot of fees. Amazon has a lot of hidden fees as well. So pick fees, pack fees, storage fee, long-term fees, short-term fees, return fees, and now sponsored ad fees, and your cost of the goods sold, especially FIFO cost of goods sold. All of those are broken down in this report, which gives you the exact ability to get surgical and figure out how you can make the most money in your business and where there's some holes in your bucket that you need to maybe patch up.
Cool.
All right, mistake number 5. This is a fun one. So a lot of people look at sponsored ads in a very secular way, but in my opinion, listings, and I know CPC Strategy does this as well. You guys do listing optimization and you do the sponsored ad management side by side.
Yeah, if anybody has seen our most recent webinars, that we won't shut up about EBC and A+, so absolutely.
So a lot of people forget to focus on what their real conversion rate is. Now, how do you figure out your conversion rate on Amazon? Now, if you're a one-piece seller today, vendor central seller, selling to Amazon, listening to this right now, first of all, you should be doing 3P for sure, in my opinion. That's my own biased opinion. But on top of that, you get a lot of data and reports to back it up. So this is the kind of stuff that you don't get in Vendor Central. It looked like Pat had a little difference of opinion, which is allowed. But
no, thank you.
This is a report that you get as a third-party seller only. You get a lot of interesting reports, but this report specifically is one I look at consistently. You go to reports, and you go to by ASIN, detail page, sales, and traffic by parent item. And we do this on a monthly basis. So we look at all of our products on a broad level. Sessions are your impressions or visitors that are coming to the site. Now, Amazon doesn't give you your conversion rate here. They give you a unit session percentage, which we'll talk about momentarily. But to figure out what your true conversion is, right, you have to kind of do some manual digging. You take your total order items plus your B2B ordered items, you add them together, you divide it by the amount of people who are coming, the sessions, and that gives you your overall Amazon conversion rate. Now, why does Amazon care about the conversion rate over everything else? Well, a few things. Number one, Amazon really only makes money, like they're not in business for sponsored ads. Yes, Amazon sponsored ads now is roughly about $1 billion line item on Amazon's P&L. But Amazon really makes money when the person actually makes a purchase. So we understand that conversion rate is very, very important when you're trying to win. Now, this is a template that I'm going to give to everybody at the end of this webinar. It's going to be my offer at the end with a link. And this is a template that we manage on a monthly basis of total impressions, total conversions, and then we do it by SKU, and we do it by month. So we analyze everything that's happening, and on top of that, we back out sponsored ads for impressions so we can figure out what our natural conversion rate is, natural sessions without the sponsored ads. Now, what do I do with this data? Because if you look at data without something to compare it to, something to benchmark against, it's not as helpful. So what I've done is I actually blind out all my information, and I send it to a bunch of friends and a bunch of customers of Skubana, and I'm like, hey, here's a template for you to fill in. Fill it out. You don't have to put any of your SKU information there, but I want to see perhaps did your sessions increase or decrease when you did enhanced brand content? Or how's your conversion rate looking? And yeah, maybe they may not be the same category, but again, it gives me some idea of what is my data versus other people's data. So in the e-commerce world, a 3% conversion rate is good, 5% is amazing. 1-800-Flowers has a 17% conversion rate. Depending on your category, right, it could be 6 to 8% on average of what you're targeting on Amazon. Look, I've heard conversion rates on Amazon being 20 to 25%. So you have to really pick and choose what your target conversion rate is and what you want to achieve. But certainly by looking at your own data, you can figure out what are your best performing conversion rates and why, and what are your worst, and try to fix on behalf of those before you start dumping a whole lot of money doing sponsored ads on those. So a perfect client to Amazon is where they make the absolute most money. So yes, utilizing sponsored ads and doing a headline ads with AMS, Amazon made some bank there. Then FBA, they make some more money at FBA. And lastly, they make the most amount of money when actually the conversion happens. The holy triangle is getting all three of these things simultaneously to happen. That's like the sweet spot. And I would say that I would be more, I've read a lot about Amazon A9 and the search ranking and how they track. They do track conversion rate, which we'll get to in a second. And they, like Google really cares about just, okay, this is the cost per click and the person clicked, that's great, that's relevance. For Amazon, relevance is not only just buyer intent, it's actually buyer conversion. And they're tracking this stuff. Pat, anything to piggyback on this one?
No, I was going to make that last point as well, that it makes sense. Put yourself in Amazon's shoes and figure why are they using conversion data as an indicator of products which are good matches for consumer intent, and it makes sense that it's sales. If somebody searches for sunglasses and more often than not they purchase a given pair, that's a pretty high indicator to Amazon that, hey, that's a good match. And so they're going to continue to serve that. As a consumer, that's great because we know how ruthless Amazon is. And so if a product starts selling really well for a given search, if there's a brand new water bottle, for example, it's not the same old water bottle I've been seeing for 10 years. It's something new. The only other piggybacking I would make is just when Chad made a good point talking about conversion rate, is that a lot of people look at unit session percentage in their metrics and think, oh, that is conversion rate. And it's actually not, because it's units divided by sessions. And so if you had somebody place one order and that one order had 10 units, that's really only one conversion. But unit session percentage takes units. So Amazon's going to give you a slightly skewed metric there. And then the second piece, if you have less than 100% buy box, if you tend to be fighting for buy box for whatever reason it is, maybe you have unauthorized resellers, maybe you are an unauthorized reseller, whatever it might be, in order to get that true sense, you'll also want to multiply your sessions by your buy box percentage, because Amazon will give you total session count irrespective of if you were in the buy box at that moment. So you can accrue 1 million sessions for an ASIN, have been in the buy box for none of that time, and Amazon will say, oh, you had 1 million sessions. You didn't really have 1 million opportunities to make a sale because you weren't in the buy box for any of that time. Now, we're mostly dealing with brands who control that, so they have all their buy box, or vendors who don't have to worry about that, but it is something to just keep in mind because it can influence the metric that you come up with for conversion rate. Last thing, I feel like Chad and I could probably do a whole webinar about this together. I only shook my head at the vendor 3P because I would just hedge a little bit. I think there are some cases where there's a good hybrid approach. Where I will not disagree is that you get better data out of Seller Central, at least today.
Okay, I accept that. I do like hybrid. I like hybrid for myself just because it's a nice insurance policy where I don't have to pay for a really bad insurance plan that people are offering now, which has a lot of loopholes.
But to be honest, I think the differences between the two are getting smaller and smaller every day outside of a couple of things that aren't going to change. But there used to be a massive functionality gap, and that's going away. But anyway, we can digress on that forever. And
you know about the recent functionality they just launched. I just posted about this on my LinkedIn. The coupons that were launched, I think, yesterday.
Still in beta, so not everybody's going to see them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm a huge fan of this flipping, and I'm so happy that it happened before Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Super cool.
So, clicking on that, right? Win rate math. So, if all things remain constant, right? If you and you're both selling garlic presses, not that there needs to be another garlic press on Amazon. There's over, I think, 100,000 garlic presses on Amazon. It's outrageous. But if everyone's spending the same amount of money and has the same spend, and the clicks that Amazon's allocating for those two products are the same amount of clicks, and one person has a conversion rate of 10% versus 5%, people always ask me, Chad, if I'm at the higher end of what the suggested bid is on Amazon, why am I still losing? And the answer, in my opinion, and this is my opinion and what I'm seeing on the ground, is that the conversion rate will dictate who wins. Why does Amazon care? Because if you look at the bottom here, Amazon does what's best for Amazon. What's going to net Amazon the most amount of money? In this case, if you have a 10% conversion rate on $25, okay, that's $3.75 versus seller B at a 5% conversion rate at $1.88. So the win rate math, you cannot ignore what happens with math, and bet your bippy that Amazon is very focused. Amazon's very focused on what's going to make them the most money. Because it's all about, at the end of the day, relevance. In fact, if you actually go to A9 and you do a Command F if you're on a Mac or a Control F on a PC, the most used word on A9's website is relevance. It's like 3 times. So just something to underscore. Okay, so in summation, heaviest weight is placed on conversions. Now, conversions aren't all created equal. There's a reason why Amazon gives you unit session percentage and not conversion rate, because they actually care if people are buying even more for 2 reasons. One is they make more money. If someone buys 2 versus 1, they make more money. And on top of that, when they're doing Prime eligible shipping, which nearly almost everybody on Amazon that's relevant is doing today, it's economies of scale. So if Amazon can put 2 items in a box versus 1 item in a box, shipping may go up 10 cents, but the amount of absolute dollars that they get from that are a lot more. So unit session percentage cannot be forgotten about. It's very important, and it's given to you there. So we look at both unit session percentage and conversion rates to see what's happening with our products. Now, another little nugget here is that we've activated on Seller Central B2B pricing with tiered pricing for B2B, and we get people to tier up and buy more for our goods using B2B pricing. And then on top of that, if you look here, right, you can actually set up coupons in the back end of Amazon, also known as the coupon stack, which gets you to get people to tier up and buy more of the same item. And so I highly suggest people start utilizing the coupon stack because it's very, very important to propel your product up the ranking on Amazon.
Cool. Chad, thank you so much. I know it is, let's see, 11:54 here on the West Coast, so I'm going to go through this last section fairly quickly to at least have a couple minutes for questions for those of you who are able to stick around. So the set it and forget it approach is something that we see very common and is a mistake that can be really damaging to your business. And the set it and forget it approach causes damage in three major areas: in bidding, in keyword selection, and in advertised ASIN selection. So the way that a set it and forget it approach might have a damaging impact in bidding is, I think I said earlier on too, is that you set a bid on a certain day for a certain keyword. Okay, you set that bid on September 1st, and you used data from August to make that decision. So it was a good decision. You used relevant data, you made that bid, then you walked away and never checked it again. As an advertiser, you have no idea if that bid change that you made was effective or not. If it was, maybe it caused your ACOS to run away and go crazy. I think one of you guys keeps clicking on the Windows thing there. It can cause your ACOS to go really high, and if you're not coming back in and checking that, you won't know that, hey, you should downbid on that. Or you might not know that you upbid a keyword, for example, and it's performing really well. You're getting a tremendous amount of volume, it's converting, it's hitting your ACOS goal, and so you miss volume opportunities because you never revisit it. The same thing can happen for keyword selection. Harvesting only works as well as you are harvesting. You can plant the most beautiful crops in the world and they can grow, but if you never go out and actually get them, you don't have any food. And so if you have automatic campaigns running, if you have broad and phrase match keywords that are doing some harvesting for you in manual campaigns, but you're never actually going back in and looking what new keywords are available, where am I strong, where am I okay, where am I weak, then it doesn't matter how much harvesting you're doing because you're not taking action on it. And that action cannot be monthly. That action cannot be weekly. That action needs to be regular. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on here. And again, I won't hesitate to plug our internal CapEx technology as something that empowers us to do that as practitioners. Finally, in advertised ASIN selection, Chad talked about he's managing close to 1,000 of his own brand SKUs, I think he mentioned. And that catalog is oscillating all the time. So let's say you have 1,000 SKUs and you go up to 2,000 SKUs. Well, this is not Google. It's not Google Merchant Center where it has a dynamic filter that's automatically going to pull your product into an existing advertising campaign. You have to manually do that. Otherwise, you have new ASINs which aren't being advertised. So if you set it and forget it, your advertising is as good as the day that you set it up and no day after. In the interest of time, I'm going to kind of breeze through this recap here. Know your goals. Your goals help inform your strategy. They also help you measure if you're effective. Get granular. It's work up front. It's pain up front. It allows you to get granular and do what your competitors are not later. I think Chad made a great point about that. Think about the things that actually serve as differentiators and allow you to get a leg up on your competitors. Do that ACOS calculation that Chad laid out. I think that's really powerful. If nothing else, do that for your top 100 products, or do that for your alpha SKUs to know where you stand in those, to help you understand, number one, where your goals are. Using data to inform decisions, you have that search term report. You have information on your own P&L and on your own cost of goods. Make sure this data is part of your decision. And then the last one here and then the number 5 that Chad talked about is your conversion rate, how that matters. And then as I just mentioned, don't set it and forget it. You can pat yourself on the back and say you're quote unquote done after you've set something up, but every day you're missing potential optimizations that are going to allow you to get to the holy grail on that triangle, which is both volume and efficiency. Nick, I see your very official suit jacketed face down there in the corner. I feel like you're about to make an announcement.
I'm speaking for the people here, Pat. You know me. You know, I'm speaking for the sellers and the vendors.
Very diplomatic, you.
I speak for the people. But really, Chad, Pat, appreciate the presentation today. I mean, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to go over a couple minutes for today's session, maybe 5-7 minutes to answer some of these questions.
Chad, you have a couple minutes?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Cool. Yeah, we got a bunch of questions, but I think we got a couple offers here. So one thing, from us from CPC Strategy, of course, as Chad mentioned too, and Pat as well, is we kind of do full service, digital ad agency over here in San Diego. And so if you're looking to, expand your efforts on sponsored products, if you want us to kind of have a second look at your current sponsored product, account health, we kind of do evaluations to kind of go through, look at your potential opportunities, where you're missing out from. Really what it comes down to is, just if it doesn't, work out, we're really just looking for, to help you out with your opportunity. There's about a week left for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so having a second look at your current account structure and your hidden opportunities would be, huge moving forward. So I shot over a quick message in the chat box with that link too. So we're going to move over here to the chat's offer as well. But if you guys want to kind of just follow up with us, definitely do so. If not, just continue to follow our webinars and our content, and continue to attend these sessions, read our ebooks and our guides, and read the blog content that we come out with, because it's fantastic stuff that we put out. We know it, and so that's what we're kind of do for everyone that's in attendance for today. So if you're kind of interested in something like that, the link's in the chat box too. You can follow up with us too at cpcstrategy.com. So then I believe, Chad, you're going to give out the sheet that you got.
Yes, the Amazon conversion spreadsheet I use to run my business.
Nice. Let me put that in the chat too.
Apply for it in this link here. I'll make it available till the end of the day. You have to give me your information. I'll get an email. I'll send you off the template. You share it. You use it for yourself. Share it with your friends as well, and see what their conversion rates are and see how you stack up versus others.
Chad, is it true that if you use a spreadsheet, it guarantees to double your conversion rate across all your ASINs? Is that fair?
It will triple your conversions.
Whoa, okay. You guys heard it here first.
Fantastic. So I just shot out that link as well in the chat box, so you guys can definitely check that out for that offer as well. One last thing too, before we kind of jump into the questions that I want to address is I have another link that I'm going to shoot out to you guys as well. Promise this is the last one, but we actually are doing, and I saw a lot of vendors were on today's session too, so if you're a vendor or if you're just curious about Amazon marketing services, we're actually doing another webinar in 2 weeks actually, the 30th of this month, around Amazon marketing services. It's going to go into kind of the ins and outs of how to use your product display ads, the new Amazon stores and how that ties into headline search ads as well. So doing another fantastic presentation of our managers of marketplace strategy too, David Cooley. So they'll be, and in a couple weeks I'll shoot that link over to you guys too. So that's enough talk. Let's go into some questions though here that we have. All right. Let's see, I got a whole spreadsheet here I've got going on. All right, so Pat, you can kind of start this one off here. Question here from Lien wants to know, what's your advice for picking the most profitable keywords from an auto-targeting campaign? Is there any particular metric that they should be looking at? Is it sales? Is it conversions? Like, what would you kind of say from that?
Yeah, so the question is about evaluating profitability. Which metrics should be evaluated to inform that? And so when you look at that search term report, you want to look at clicks, you want to look at conversions, you want to look at spend, you want to look at revenue. And your advertising spend over your advertising revenue is what's going to give you your ACOS, advertising cost of sale. That is your profitability metric. So if you know you have 80 points of margin, if you have 85% margin, then you're only advertising something up to a 15% cost of sale. Yeah, you're efficient, that's great, but as Chad mentioned, you're leaving a lot of volume on the table. So when you're looking at that, you don't just want to get excited because you say, oh, look at this search term, I got 500 clicks for it. If you got 500 clicks and no conversions, that's a cookie sheet, bed sheet situation, and that's toxic for you. And so those are the metrics you want to use.
Nice. Anything to add there, Chad, or if we move on to the next one?
Oh, that's great.
Cool. I do believe that people are asking if that landing page has any kind of password. Yeah, which password?
Go back. Go back. The password was there.
What's that?
There it is. Yeah, so the
okay.
password is nuggets. So gold nuggets. Skubana.com/gold/nuggets.
All right.
Love the gold.
I could have told the audience that. Good. So we'll keep this up though as we go to the next couple questions.
I may change that to Skubana.com/crypto and then password currency, but we'll see.
Too soon.
I love it. All right, let's go to the other one here. Question from, let's go with Kim here. When I pull my search term report, most of the converting keywords are not keywords. Actually, this is pretty interesting. They are ASINs. So I'm assuming they are coming from the product page advertising. How in the world can I optimize these? Can I use them for a manual campaign? I have seen this as well, where you get the actual ASIN number. Is there any particular strategy around that too? I'm really curious myself, like when you get that within the search term report. Is there any ways to kind of use that?
Yeah, great question. So what you're seeing is you pull your search term report, right? And you see ASIN as the keyword, and you're thinking, well, how would there be search volume behind a given ASIN? I know my mom's not going to Amazon being like, I need another BOOIAGUX1. Maybe she is, but credit to her. So the way that happens is through automatic sponsored product campaigns. We only previously thought of them in the right rail on the SERP, which has now basically gone away. They're more native looking at the top of the search engine result page. But if you look on any given detail page, there's a horizontal carousel that says sponsored products related to this item. So if you have an automatic campaign running, your ads will show there. If a user clicks on one of those, what will show in the data is the ASIN of the page where it showed up on. And so that's the reason you get ASIN information in your search term reports. The first question people always ask is, can I negative out ASINs basically to stop from showing in certain places? And the answer is no. And you can't do ASIN-specific targeting. Again, this answer is going to be a whole nother webinar. You can't do ASIN-specific targeting just for sponsored products, but what you can do is use that information to find out what product information might be relevant to yours, what else are people searching for, and if you are running AMS, if you are running product display ads, which are not available through Seller Central, they're available through AMS, you can do ASIN-specific targeting, and the data behind that can inform the areas where you can do ASIN targeting through PDAs. I know that's a lot, but it's a good question.
Nice, appreciate that. Question here too, wrap it up here, about 4 minutes. You guys cool with 4 minutes? Go through a couple more questions here. Nice. Question for Chad too here. All right. Tim wants to know if we have a good conversion rate and a lower bid than the highest bidder, is it possible for us to be displayed on the first page? Kind of a weighted answer, I guess you could say.
You have a good conversion rate. You're bidding less than your competitor.
Correct,
I think it's category specific. But on top of that, I don't know what the delta is between, let's just say your competitor, first of all, we don't know what your competitor's conversion rate is, number one. So it could be that your competitor has just as good or if not better conversion rate. However, if you think that your conversion rate's a little bit better and you're going to be bidding less, I don't know what the secret number is in terms of what's going to get them first, like how Amazon chooses, but just make sure you nail down your listing, get the foundation solid. If you do have access to the new coupons that were just launched, it gets you a great click-through rate and helps with the conversion rate as well, and it differentiates your listing on Amazon's on the front end. Again, I just got access to it. Not everybody did, according to Pat. I do think that it is still in beta as well. So there's no secret sauce. It's just, I think the idea was like, these are things that you can't just look at sponsored ads in a secular way. You have to look at it as, okay, listings, conversion rate, and how much you're spending to actually get that sale.
Perfect. Yeah, I got a lot of questions too about the coupons too, so that's good. So just to clarify, so is it in beta still? Is that kind of rolled out? There was definitely an influx of questions that came through there.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there. Don't want to confirm or deny or speak on behalf of Amazon about the status that a given product is in. Cool. What we can say across the board is that we know and we have seen amongst our own user base that some advertisers and some Seller Central users have access to it. Others do not, and so again, I feel less comfortable, speaking on behalf of Amazon about what state a given product is in. But I can tell you observationally, that's what we're seeing. The only other thing I'd want to add to what Chad was mentioning before, which I think is really good stuff. I don't know why this keeps popping up. Is that the ad auction is a combination of bid, of relevancy, and of history. So you can have a super high bid, you can have 100% conversion rate. But if you're advertising sunglasses against water bottle, your ad is still never going to show up because it's not relevant. So to Chad's point, it is a bit of a cocktail of how relevant, what is your bid, and what is your conversion. It's not a math equation that says, well, they have 2% more conversion rate, so I have to bid 85 cents higher. That's not really how it works. I expect one day in the future Amazon will give us data. I don't expect. I hope one day in the future Amazon would give us data that actually says, okay, here's placement 1, the average bid for placement 1. Here's the average bid for placement 2. Just something similar to what you get in Google, and that would empower that. But that's the way to think about the auction.
And I just want to say regarding the coupons, I always try to post up-to-date stuff on LinkedIn of what happens, what's released. And in my LinkedIn post here, people are saying they don't have access to it. Someone said I checked 20 different accounts, although one person that commented wrote, try going directly to the URL. So sellercentral.amazon.com/seller coupons and see if you can access it that way.
Nice, great. You can kind of check out, Chad's LinkedIn account too there, and blow him up with a friend's request and get him going there. Just kidding. So let's kind of finish off here, though. We are 10 minutes past. I do want to finish off with just kind of one last question that I typically like to finish off these webinars. It's something to address too with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and really the next month and a half here of the holidays, and the holiday shopping season. Guys, I'm going to start here with Pat, and then we can pass it over to Chad too. But Pat, is there one thing that we are paying attention to in particular when it comes to just sponsored products, or if you want to take it a higher level, just in general, as we're all heading into Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend and the rest of the holiday shopping season? Is it the cost of your advertising? Is it what are you paying attention to most?
Yeah, it's going to be a really simple answer, and that is make sure you always have somebody behind the helm who's steering the ship. I mean, that should be true of your business every day anyway, but we see a lot of, oh man, I ran out of stock 4 days ago. Oh man, my spend is out of control on a keyword. Oh man, there's product display ads from my biggest competitor on my detail page. Those are panicky moments. They're less panicky when you're on top of things and realizing that they're happening. So that common mistake, number 6, the set it and forget it, it's easy to do that because you're running a business or a channel or building a brand, and there's no lack of things to do, customer service, but it is more dangerous than ever to not stay present when it comes to managing all that.
All right, thanks, Pat. Kick it over to you there, Chad.
Look, everyone that's on this webinar right now is trying to, well, first of all, they're battling really one thing, right? It binds everyone together on this webinar, which is we're all battling to sell our products and to win e-commerce market share. So my suggestion is, and there's no silver bullet, there's no weight loss drug that's going to make it happen, right? It's literally going back to counting calories, right? Energy in, energy out, right? The energy you put into the business is what you're going to get out of the business. And so I go back to always fundamentals, right? Really like thinking about, like I showed that ACOS graph, looking at my conversion rates, talking to smart people like Pat, right, and figuring out what can we do that's help us win in e-commerce right now. So even when it comes to that coupon that we mentioned at the end, like people probably on the webinar had no idea until they heard at the end, and some of them are going to go check it out and some aren't. But I think that in order to win in a 2017 4Q environment going into 2018 is you have to actually be on the cusp of all the latest things that Amazon gives you, all the tools that you have access to win, and that's including being hybrid, going 3P and doing 1P simultaneously, which gives you a lot more data, gives you a lot more control, in my opinion.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Chad. Thank you, Pat. For kind of going into today's session. Hour and 15 minutes, give or take, for today. So do want to be respectful of both your times. I know it is very valuable, and as well as I think we had over 600 people attend today's session too. So really do appreciate that. To everyone that's still stuck around. I mean, it's still 300 people right now. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Pat. Again. If you like to follow up with any of us, obviously Skubana, you can kind of go visit their website too, and definitely check out this offer that Chad has. If you want to have a sponsored products conversation or just an overall strategy conversation around Amazon, definitely check out CPC Strategy if you're fairly new to who we are, whether it is talking with one of our account development representatives or just continue to read our content, continue to attend our sessions, continue to read our ebooks and our blog content, everything like that. We are here to help, the sellers and vendors alike, so continue to do so. But other than that, that's going to do it for another CPC Strategy hosted webinar. One last thanks to Pat and Chad for today's session. But other than that, it's going to do it for another CPC Strategy webinar. Thanks, gents.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great